Chris Eustace, taxpayer, citizen. Madam Chair, I also like to express sentiments the same as you folks did regarding the tragedy that happened in Quebec City. You may recall at the last meeting that we had on December 19th, I asked a question at the second question period, which you refused to answer because you said it had nothing to do with the agenda that was already there. So I'm going to ask it now, which is the first question period, because this thing has come up in the second question periods of the November meeting and the December meeting. You've made the comment that I've made rampant personal attacks on commissioners, plural. You've said that on more than one occasion. The only commissioner that I have made any comments about in the past was the former chair, because he made comments about being ashamed and embarrassed of teachers, and he also had banned me from speaking at council. Also, I asked questions about the Amoresco, and the UPAC got involved, and that was it. He's the only person. So my question is this now, and I know I only got 3 minutes here, and I'm going to rush this, so it's a very simple question. Name a commissioner that I made a personal attack upon.
Sue Ann Stein Day.
Yeah, right, cute. Okay, what else? Who else? Personal attacks on committee. With the answer, in other words, there is no answer. See, this is the type of stuff that's false. Anyway, I'm in the middle of writing an open letter to the commissioners here, and I'm in the process of getting it translated, and you'll hopefully get it by tomorrow morning. But I would like to read the first paragraph of it and the last 2 or 3 paragraphs. And this is what the letter says. It's an open letter to the commissioners here. I take no joy in writing this letter, but must, because the Pearson Board has the finest schools in the province, manned by first-rate teachers and support staff, and is run by decent people whose priority is the well-being of the board's students. This second paragraph. However, the reputation of the Lester B. Pearson School Board has been tarnished in the past several months, partly because of your secretive actions and inactions surrounding the widely reported ethics scandal involving Chair Sue Ann Stein Day. Consider the following, in quotes for the West Island Gazette 2 weeks ago. The secrecy did not play well in the media, nor with the Lester B. Pearson School Board community at large. Then at the very end, I made 4 suggestions as to what should happen at this particular school board, and you will get a copy of this in English and French, and so will the National Assembly, and so will the press. So the last 3 or 4 paragraphs. So what to do? Point 1, Madame Stein Day should reflect on the letters written by the Lester B. Pearson School Board employees, the petition with comments signed by over 160 people in the community, and the 3 guilty verdicts of the ethics commissioner. Moreover, Madame Stein Day should remember that more people voted against her continued chairmanship in the November 2014 elections. Then she should resign, start fresh, and run if she wishes in the November 2018 elections. Option 2, the board could conduct a fair referendum of sorts, call for a public meeting, and take a vote by secret ballot. Number 3, Pearson commissioners could heed the advice, heed the advice of the citizens of the Democratic and Autonomous Schools Organization. They wrote, the council itself, for the welfare of the Lester B. Pearson School Board, must have the collective fortitude to admit that it mishandled this entire case and collectively demand the resignation of the chairman and file this collective request with the Minister of Education. 4, and last point, if all that fails, Premier Philip Couillard and Education Minister Sebastien Prou should intervene for the general good of the Pearson Board community by applying Article 459.6 of the recently adopted Bill 105, which has increased the powers of the government. That being said, at the Executive Committee last week,
Mr. Eustace,
the
your time's
executive
up. Can
committee
you
last-
wrap up this sentence, please?
I'm sorry?
Your time is long up. Can you wrap this up very
Yeah, I'm going
quickly,
to wrap it up
please?
right now. At the executive committee last week, in fact, the Suburban wrote an article about it. You said, not you, but the chairman of the board, executive chairman, that something would be said at this council regarding this whole situation. So, very simply put, what's happening?
The whole situation is still being reviewed through an investigation and an audit, and until that's completed,
No.
we won't be speaking.
I'm not talking about
This
that.
is not a debate, Mr.
I'm not
Eustace.
talking
Your time's
about,
up.
but
Would
I'm
you
not
please
talking
have a
about that
seat?
though. But you
Would
see, you
please
are
have a
evading the
seat?
question.
I am not
This
evading the question. I'm
organization,
answering it honestly.
the
Please
association,
sit down,
Cadre
Mr. Eustace.
Commissioner wrote you a
Here,
letter,
can
which
we
I got a
kill the
copy
mic,
of. What are you going to
please?
do? Call
Question
the,
period
cut the mic
is
off.
up.
Do whatever you want.
Please.
Why
Mr.
can't you
Eustace,
simply take the truth?
Again, can you not
you
follow
said
the
you would say
rules
something
of
at this
our
meeting.
council? Can you
What's
not please
happening?
follow the
Excuse me,
rules?
Madam-
This
Yes.
has nothing to
Excuse me,
do
Madam Chair, point
with
of
the
order.
ethics.
Yes.
What is the answer?
Point of
me.
order on the floor.
What
please.
is the
Excuse me,
answer?
Madam,
Point of
Madam Chair, I
order.
don't
The
believe
truth
that
of the
we-
matter is, you
I don't-
can't answer.
Excuse me, I
You
don't
should be
think that-
ashamed of yourself, madam.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, but I don't think that we should be suffering through.
All right. Are there any other questions from the public?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is something completely off, but Mr. Bender raised something quite interesting. He asked a question, what can we do as a council regarding the history program? Now, I'm not a history teacher like that, but I could have sworn I heard English Montreal School Board, they're trying to rally the other school boards that the new history program have 20% of its content dealing with minorities. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? But anyway, that's
Yeah,
what they want.
We did hear that they passed a resolution. They passed a resolution. It was after our agenda was already set. For the record, Mr. Bender was talking about the financial literacy course. But
Oh,
the history
okay, history.
program, we've all spoken out on it. We've spoken out at the provincial level through QESBA.
Yeah, okay.
And right now there is a committee which includes QESBA and several senior administrators who are working with the people at the ministry to deal with those lapses in content.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, this is the second question period, which you can only talk about what happens during the meeting.
That's correct.
Okay, during the meeting, you had executive committee. Well, executive committee was part of it anyway. I was at the meeting last week about the executive committee, and there's two things that I raised, which I thought would have been handled. That I got the impression are going to be handled at this meeting. Kids help phone. I said, listen, is it possible to put that on the website? And I definitely got the impression that it was going to be on, following what other school boards have done, one in particular, Sir Wilfrid Laurier with Tel Jeune. So that's my question.
That wasn't really part of our agenda, but because of last week's intervention, Mr. Kekile has done some research on that. So, Michael?
I did do research on it, communicated with our student services department. The approach that we take to mental health is a serious one as well. We have psychologists that visit the schools once, twice a week. We look more at the whole process. We want to work with the students from beginning to end instead of telling them to go to a website and phone someone. We believe in building the relationship with the student. We do offer them resources and toolkits. We do have on our website the Center of Excellence in Mental Health, where there are many links.
I saw that.
And we are thinking of maybe adding that.
You're thinking about adding kids help phone?
That's correct.
Okay, good. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Second thing that I mentioned at the meeting, and the executive committee meeting, I said, since you don't want to webcast it, the executive committee meetings, because it costs too much, I suggested, why don't you just simply, tape it, sound, a SoundCloud, the way they do it at radio stations. Any answer, any thought about that? It wouldn't cost anything, since everybody's got microphones, so it's just a matter of somebody putting on the tape, if that's the proper modern word for that. Why not for sound effects? I mean, the only proof that I have that these things were mentioned last week is because the press was there, a newspaper was there, okay? But if something's unsound, the public can hear it. You're helping the public. It's a public thing.
To be honest, I don't remember you bringing that up last week, but I will have Mr. Kekule discuss it with our people and see if that's a viable option.
Okay, two more small things. On the QUESBA report, and I did read about this, that basically what you're asking is, this is very simply put, you're asking that the funds from the federal government go directly to school boards as opposed to being circumvented in other areas. Well, just so you know, and you may have read it, that I have written also to Melanie Joly and the Heritage and all the rest of them and all that, saying basically, no, don't give the money to the school boards, give the money directly to the schools. Just so you know, that's all. And you can see one of my responses, I sent it to all the federal MPs in this area, Mr. Trudeau and Melanie Joly. And the second to last point.
Can I ask Mr. Burke, who is our resident expert on that, to respond to that point?
Yeah, just to be clear, the funds will never go from the federal government to a school board or an individual school. The interprovincial and intergovernmental agreements don't provide for that in any kind of transfers. However, what we're talking about is that when the money comes to Quebec, a portion of it, about 30%, is taken by the Conseil de Trésor to cover the core costs of providing education in the English sector. The argument is that whether there was an entente or not, the government has an obligation to provide these core services to all citizens. So the argument is that that money be apportioned to the minority language community, not specifically to school boards or schools, but just that the whole pot is there for...
It was about minority language. I do understand that.
Yeah.
Yes, but we're not asking for the money to come directly to school boards.
No.
Well,
We're asking for the money to be used by school boards and by education.
Well, not
Because
according...
school boards are not the only beneficiaries. The whole minority language community,
Well, from what-
universities, CEGEPs are all eligible.
I don't have the article in front of me, but it was in the Suburban 2 weeks ago and about a month ago as well. Anyway, two more small points here. There's a letter to the editor regarding the Kids Help phone line, and it's titled "Lester B should get his priorities straight." That would cost absolutely nothing to put that on the site. So I would encourage you to do that, as opposed to spending almost, if not more than $5,000 for 2 commissioners to go to Denver, Colorado. If we use the same facts and figures that came from Nashville, and what was it, this another city from before? Los Angeles, New Orleans.
Mr. Eustace, your time's up. Do you have
Okay,
one
well,
more
I've just
point?
got one more quick point, and that's it. Just to get something very, very clear here, and I don't want to yell and all that. This whole thing regarding from the association Cadre Commission de Scolaire has nothing to do directly with UPAC or the audit committee from the ministry. It has to do with your conduct, Madam Chair. Your conduct.
Okay, Mr.
In
Eustace.
that you
Point taken.
damage the
I'm not-
reputation of our members. Here, there
Thank
you
you,
go
Mr.
again. You're cutting me
Eustace.
off. I'm almost finished.
Yeah.
Damaging, it's in the newspaper.
You've said it before.
And
Yeah,
you were
so
supposed to
it
give
must
an
be
answer.
true.
You're
Mrs.
supposed to give an
Beaton,
answer
would you
now.
like to move adjournment of the meeting? Thank
Bye.
you. The next regular scheduled meeting of the council.